Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Random Redshirt podcast. I am one of the hosts, Zach, and the other host is Chris. What's up, buddy?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Zach. Awesome to be here again, as always, my great friends. Everyone for joining us all over the worlds and the interwebs, thank you very much for joining us. Great to have you listen, and especially those that have been like regular listeners. We really, really appreciate you. It's always fun to be on the live streams with them.
Yeah, it really is. We definitely appreciate everybody so much. We wouldn't be doing this without you guys because if we had recorded our podcast in the beginning and nobody listened,
Mm.
we're like, well, that's the end of that
Yeah.
story. But it's been great. It's been awesome sharing our passions with people, talking about the things we love and enjoy, and it's obviously been fun for me in particular, just getting a chance, even though it's virtually, getting a chance to hang out
Mhm.
with you and talk about fun
Yeah.
things and have amazing guests on with us and learn about their lives and their careers and passions and hobbies and all that stuff. And yeah, we're really looking forward to as we continue the podcast and we got a lot of fun stuff coming up. By the way, we're going to be ending season 6 pretty soon with our final episode. And then we'll be jumping into season 7 with some really amazing content and interviews coming soon.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty amazing. We got to meet some new people recently, which we'll talk about, right? And
Yep.
this will be just so cool to do our future episodes. Um, did you have it? I'm sorry, I'm just going on a total tangent. How was your Halloween? Did you guys was that good?
It
Like,
it was, yeah, it was. It was a little chilly outside.
mm,
But we were out for about an hour with the kids, and needless to say, they did well. I think they got the most candy they've ever got
ooh,
in since they've been doing this, which is wild because uh my wife put all the candy from both kids together in one bag, and then
mm.
she's like, "This is really heavy. I want to weigh this." So she weighed it. Chris, they got 11 pounds of candy.
Oh man,
I
holy
mean,
moly.
that's like, yeah, it's wild how much they got. So I took a majority of that to work and gave it to the office, and they can all eat it. Let them eat it, and we kept a little bowl with a few things behind. And we don't give our
Nice.
we don't give our kids a ton of candy anyways, so
Yeah.
we kept just enough around for them to have a little bit here and there, and then the rest we gave it away because I don't need that much sugar. And I mean, now, what was cool was that there was a few houses that gave out the full size candy bars, which obviously means they're the popular houses, right? I
Yeah,
mean, everybody wants the
absolutely.
full size. They're expensive. So my kids knew that there were a couple of the full size candy bars that I took as part of what I call the dad tax. So I,
There
I
you
kept
go.
it. I kept a couple of them. But what about you guys? Did you
Oh,
guys get
that's
a lot of trick
excellent.
or treaters again and go through a lot of candy?
We did not get as many trick-or-treaters. We had half as many trick-or-treaters this year. Usually we have like quite a bit. So one of the things I like to do is like count how many trick-or-treaters come. And so like I had 179 one year. Yeah. But
Wow.
but uh
Holy Toledo.
but this year there were 52. But we had this is a day where we had a snowstorm. So we got pummeled by a big snowstorm, like on Halloween Eve and Halloween. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's this snowstorm and we got to get prepped for Halloween. So I was shoveling away, trying to shovel away, like clear the area like after work in time for the trick-or-treaters. And I was shoveling and I was watching them come over, like, oh, they're on the way. And I'm still trying to shovel like a path because we've like got like 8 inches of snow. And
Oh
you know,
my
it's funny,
gosh.
they're walking past me as I'm shoveling and they're going, "Oh, are you like open for trick-or-treating?" And I'm like, "Yes, but let me get the candy because there's not even a path to the house yet." So so it was a good Halloween. We set up the fog machine, so that's always fun. But it's only about half this time. So not as many trick-or-treaters. We got the snow really affected the quantity this year.
If you hadn't said the snow, I was thinking maybe you were like jump scaring kids out of bushes, and then people were like, "Stay away from that house," and then you got
Yeah,
less trick or
yeah.
treaters. But the snow kept them away.
Yeah, snow kept them away.
Well, that
Yeah.
means that the 50 some that you got were real diehard. Like they were really committed to be able to go out in all that snow. I mean, that's not an insignificant amount of snow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. They were really, really committed because the roads, got pretty narrow. Like as you
Yeah.
know, they got pretty narrow with the snow there. So
I remember tunneling out of some snow when we lived up there in Alaska. A
yeah.
couple, especially one winter, we got hit so hard. I remember Uh, I know there was snow. In fact, I think it was my daughter's first time trick or treating, and there was so much snow. It was so cold, and our cul-de-sac was so icy that everybody's walking around the edges, and people were still slipping.
Yeah.
People's strollers were sliding away, like that scene in Ghostbusters 2 where the stroller takes off on the in the road. I mean, it was wild, and yeah, we had that winter. I think we had 5 or 6 feet high walls of snow on the sides of our driveway because we kept shoveling it. It just never ended, Chris, and then it stuck
Yeah.
around for like 7 months.
Oh, it did. Oh, for sure.
It
It
was
absolutely
nuts.
did. It was funny.
Yeah.
So we were okay with the candy quantity in terms of we had enough to give out to the trick-or-treaters.
That's good.
But it was funny because I glanced over and I saw this bag of candy that hadn't been emptied yet. And I said, I said to my wife, I said, "Isn't that the good candy?" And then she was like, "Yeah, it's the good candy. I
You save
didn't
the
want to
good candy
mix
for
it in."
last, right?
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
That
So
way, if you have any left over, you have good stuff to eat, and not the garbage ones, right?
yeah. So I could
I
see
think everybody
there
does
was
that,
some,
don't they? Or mostly
I
everybody.
guess so. I guess there was some strategy there with the
Now
candy. So
that's some significantly professional Halloween strategy right there, Chris.
yeah.
That's great. Your wife knew exactly what she was doing.
Yeah,
That was good.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's good. Yeah, we had a little bit of snow right before Halloween, which we didn't have when we lived in California, and then we just got socked by snow, but for like 3 days, and
Yeah.
it's been interesting to say the least. Like
Yeah.
going from California weather to getting snow before Halloween, which I mean, my wife and I, we I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. She grew up in Massachusetts, so we were used to snow from when we were kids. But
Hmm.
living in California as long as we did, it's like you just get used to sunny weather and no snow. So
Yeah.
nice, but yeah.
Like as I said before, what I love is that you were shoveling with your Alaskan shovel, my friend. I thought
That's
that
because
was
I didn't have
awesome.
another one. I didn't have another one. We bought this thing in Alaska many years ago when we lived there.
Yeah.
And we've just kept it. We kept it in California. We're like, well, I'm going to throw this away. What happens if we go somewhere else where there's snow? We might need
Hmm.
it. And it's still in good shape. And it was one of these really good heavy duty shovels. Although I don't know if it's still heavy duty anymore, but it's been working. And it has like on the end of it a little metal strip,
Yeah.
like a little so when you can really dig into the ice, almost like a pick a little bit.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
it makes shoveling the really heavy stuff much easier.
Yes.
So good shovels are hard to come by.
They are. And then you will have like, well, in Alaska, then we'll have our array of shovels, multi shovels for the different kinds of snow and like ice
Oh
chipping that we've
gosh,
got to do. So yeah.
man, yeah, no, I don't. I'm good. I don't want any shovels, but unfortunately, it's necessity now. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice.
but for those of you watching or listening, thank you again so much for joining us. We're a couple of nerdy guys who like talk about all things nerdy, Star Trek, Star Wars, everything in between. Be sure to catch us on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. If you're listening to this on an audio only format, you can find the video version of it on YouTube as well. If you're on YouTube, you can find every single episode of the Random Redshirt podcast on your favorite podcast platform. And today we are talking about something in between again. We're, as you may have noticed by the title of the episode, we're doing our kind of recap and review of the Battlestar Galactica 20th anniversary convention that took place in Chicago late October. So at the time of this recording, it would have been last month here, 2024. And we're looking forward to just kind of recapping, kind of sharing our thoughts. This gives us, Chris, a chance to kind of I don't say decompress, but just kind of, backtrack in our minds through kind of what we experienced, who we met, who we talked to, all that kind of good stuff, and get a chance to kind of relive it again a little bit.
Yeah, this will be nice to reflect upon it. So that will be good. This was, as we both understood it,
Yeah.
the first dedicated Battlestar Galactica convention ever. And it happened to be the 20th anniversary. And it happened to be this first time the majority of the major cast got to connect and be with each other again. So that seemed like a very, 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 very like meaningful and special moment that everyone was able to get back together again. So it was a real first, as we both understood it.
It really was. And really quickly before we continue, Chris, I
Yeah.
want to point out
Yes.
something in my background here. If you're watching us on YouTube, you may notice a very familiar portrait behind me. This is the artwork done by Jenny Johnson, who did this D Space Nine painting with the station. It's got the wormhole in the background and the Defiant flying away. Now, for those of you who have bought prints and have seen this image in her artwork, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The difference is this is the original.
Yes.
So if you know Jenny well and you know her artwork well, you know that she does commissions. And so it's probably been about a year or so, I think, when I started chatting with her about wanting to do a commission. And originally it was going to be something to do with Chief O'Brien. Everybody knows Chief O'Brien's my guy. It's my favorite character in the whole franchise. But because DS9 is not in HD, at least not the whole show. You can see clips of HD shots in the What We Left Behind documentary, but otherwise the show's not in HD like TNG and TOS and Enterprise and stuff. So I was like, well, it's going to be really hard to get good detail and give her a good image. So I decided, hey, could we do something with the station and the Defiant and the wormhole and everything? So she worked with an artist to come up with a concept, went through the whole process. She did it, and then it finally was able to get everything complete, and you know, it was able to get sent off to me, and now it's here home. So yes, I am the one that commissioned the painting. If you love the prints, I'm glad that you got them because this is an incredible, incredible piece.
Oh, that is amazing. It really, like with the wormhole in the background and the different, like the illumination of the stars and the station and the Defiant, it is so, so beautiful. Oh, that's
You know,
great.
yeah, thank you. It really is, and but thank you because I'm honored to own this piece.
Yeah.
Not thank you because I had anything to do with her actual work on it, other than the concept, helping to decide the concept. It's amazing though because it's it's oil painting, oil based, which is what she does. If those of you know
Hmm.
enough about her, and it's funny because with oil paintings, you would think that, oh, the closer you get, the less the details go away because it's it's oil paint. But on the contrary, with her work, it's like the closer you get, the details just come out more and more, and it's just the details are so stunning. And I told her, I said, the way you were able to capture this, it makes you feel like you're looking at a screenshot from the show. I wanted to give her some credit because she has done a wonderful job. And it's such an incredible piece. So, um, yeah, I wanted to point that out. I'm so floored to have it. There we go. So
Yeah.
floored
Thank
to
you.
have it,
Yeah.
and it's in a very very good home. Um,
Absolutely. It's in a good home. You're talking about one of the biggest and knowledgeable Star Trek Deep Space Nine like fans and connoisseurs of Deep Space Nine ever.
I mean, I'd like to think I'm knowledgeable. I'm sure there are people out there
Yeah.
who have more knowledge than me, but I'm certainly one of the most passionate fans about the show and
Mhm.
Star Trek in general, but especially DS9. So to have it here, it's a centerpiece to all the DS9 stuff that I have, and yeah, just wanted to share that really quickly. So yeah, Jenny, if you're watching or listening, which I know you do from time to time, thank you, thank you, thank you again. It's a wonderful piece, and I'm so glad that everybody has enjoyed the prints so much. I've seen many pictures she's posted of people with their prints, and it's wonderful. But like I said, it's an incredible honor to own the actual original piece of it. So, all right,
Yeah. Incredible,
that's all I'll
man.
have to say about that. But let's dive into
Awesome.
this, Chris. Let's talk about Battlestar and the convention we went to. It was awesome. I had a wonderful time. Um, it it would have been fun regardless of going, but the fact that you were able to come just made it a million times better. Obviously, we hadn't seen each
Mhm.
other since the Shuttle Pod show live event in LA we went to a
Yeah.
couple of years ago, before all that kind of disbanded. But yeah, so it was awesome seeing you in person again, hanging out with you, going to the convention, experiencing this. It was just a fantastic time.
Yeah, likewise. It was so wonderful to see you in person, be there together and experience it together. And it was in Chicago, like we said, and they held this anniversary at the Westin. I believe that was the name of the hotel,
Yep.
the Westin like hotel and convention like center. So it was a big sizable like hotel that we went to, and I think appropriate and really, really nice place for it. Very, very convenient and close to the airport, so that was good.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like he was like literally a stone's throw away from O'Hare, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, and the convention itself was in one major ballroom theater with most of almost all of the activities like in that theater, and then a small like vendor room that they had off to the side. And so you and I we got checked in Thursday evening, I
Yep.
think, for the activities to be on like Friday and Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome. I guess I'll just throw out my one beef up
Mm-hmm.
front. The vendor's room was terrible. It really was. There were literally two vendors there, not including the
Mm-hmm.
creation table. The creation table didn't have a lot. Now, I know there's not a ton of Battlestar Galactica merchandise out there. It's not like Star Trek where there's just all this merchandise, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is not a ton of BSG stuff, especially the newer show, right? Which is really what this convention was focused on. And so because of that, there were only two people there, two dealers there. So there wasn't much to choose from, which was disappointing. I was hoping they'd have more. That to me was the biggest letdown. Was just that the dealer room. It's not like the dealer room at the Star Trek convention in Vegas. This was literally two dealers and then the creation table. And that was it. And they had a table in the middle where you could pick up your photo ops. But that was the extent of it. It was very disappointing. I was hoping to buy some more BSG merchandise, but there just wasn't a ton to choose from. Now I know you
Mm-hmm.
got a little bit of BSG merchandise as well.
Yeah, I did. And so you bring up like a great point where it's not the same convention like as the Star Trek convention in Las Vegas. And that was my only real frame of reference was the Star Trek convention in Las Vegas, which was huge. And then the vendors room at the Star Trek conventions are huge. Like you really have to look around and you have to
Yeah,
spend like multiple walkthroughs and potentially days kind of understanding like what is there. So I guess in my mind, like before I was like approaching this convention, the Battlestar Galactica convention, I was thinking, oh, maybe it's something conceptually similar where there's like multiple vendors and it's not all Battlestar Galactica merchandise. It could be just various science fiction merchandise that they had there, you know, similar to the Star Trek one, because it's not always Star Trek merchandise. There's
right.
of course Star Trek merchandise, but a lot of other kind of general science fiction merchandise. But I did like one of the vendors there. I really enjoyed picking up the patches. I love the patches. So I've got the the Battlestar Galactica patch for the uniforms and the So Say We All patch, and then the Raptor Fighter Squadron like 10 patch there. So I really like these. Got them in my folder right now. But those are what I got from that vendor, along with a t-shirt from Creation, one of the Creation t-shirts that said like by your command.
Yeah, you
That
got the one
that
T-shirt I think that was really cool.
yeah.
The other ones I was like, but that one was cool. I like that one.
Yeah, so that was good. And then I was able to get the that this is where I got the picture of Admiral Adama because I didn't have one before. The Admiral Adama picture that I got advertised, autographed by Edward James almost. So that's what I got. So that's what I got from the vendor's room. But yeah, for kind of context and comparison, if people go to a future Battlestar Galactica convention, because as far as we know, there will be another one in New Jersey next year.
Yep.
You know, the
In
vendor
September,
room,
I think.
yeah, and yeah. So the vendor room is a smaller concept there. So and maybe they'll
Yeah.
have more next year, but it is smaller.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that one. It was very small. But yeah, I was happy that you found some cool stuff, some
Uh,
cool patches. Maybe you can get a coat or something to put them on, or jacket or something, and that'd be pretty neat. Yeah, I went there. I didn't have like high expectations. Like I knew the vendor room would be significantly smaller than the Star Trek one. I was just hoping that
mhm.
there would be maybe some more options, right? Or maybe even some vendors just selling some generic. The one vendor did have some generic sci-fi stuff with like some t-shirts and some autograph photos of different things, of different characters from different shows and stuff. But they're at the Star Trek convention too. I recognize them. But yeah, I was hoping maybe there's a part of me is kind of hoping they have like you know, Colonial Fleet uniform or something would be kind of neat
Mm,
to buy,
yeah.
something like that. But they didn't have that, which is unfortunate. But yeah, the vendor room to me was the most disappointing part. But I would say just overall, Chris, and I want to get your thoughts on
Mhm.
this. I really liked, and you can obviously your favorite reference you said was the Vegas convention.
Yeah.
Um, and so I want to get your thoughts on it compared to that. But for me, compared to the Vegas convention, if you go to the Star Trek con every year or been to it many times in Vegas, what I really liked about this was the intimate feeling that this convention had. It was a lot smaller, right? Not nearly as big of a, not even close to as big of a, main ballroom as the Vegas one does at the Rio. Um, the area where the guests were signing autographs, with the exception of Katie, because she was only there the one day and was signing in the back of the auditorium. Everybody had their own table lined up in that one little area off the side of the
Hmm.
ballroom. And so you could just go up there anytime if, either stand in line, or if they didn't have a line, go right up to them and hang out and chat. Um, I just felt like it was a much more, smaller, intimate setting that I really enjoyed. There wasn't nearly the crowds that you would get in Vegas. Obviously, there was still a pretty good amount of people here, but it wasn't nearly the size. So therefore, you weren't waiting in lines as long. You were closer to the stage, even with a quote unquote cheaper area seat. I really liked the size and the setting of this convention compared to Vegas.
Yeah. For me, I much prefer the smaller events and smaller number of people and the more intimate size.
Yeah,
It's a much more personal feeling, and you get to, for me, meet more people, have a friendly experience with the entirety of the event. So I like that it was smaller. For me, I got to like enjoy that and have that sense of well-being in the smaller atmosphere, and you have a different type of connection with the speakers that are there, and you don't feel rushed in it either.
yeah,
So I definitely like that atmosphere.
yeah.
There's a place for big conventions like the Star Trek convention, and certainly there's a place in demand for that. Um, but for my personal kind of likes and my personality, I like those smaller events because it's much nice. Um, my blood pressure definitely doesn't go up.
Yeah, well, one thing that I noticed now,
Mhm.
for those of you watching or listening who are either longtime goers of creation related conventions and events, or just their Star Trek show every year in Vegas, creation has had a reputation of kind of herding people through like cattle, through lines and through things like that. The nice thing about this particular creation event, because again, it was smaller, is I didn't feel like that. It was really nice. It was a very refreshing feeling. I had that kind of thought going in, like, well, is it going to be like they had, other events that they do where you're pushed through and you're rushed and everything? There was one instance of that, but that's because Katie Sackhoff had to hurry up and get on a
Mhm.
plane. She was headed out to, I think it was Dallas for another convention that weekend, and she was only there for just during that day and the night before. So that was rushed at the end because she had to hurry up and catch her plane. But in general, I just never felt like that, and it was really a breath of fresh air.
And there was not a sense of spectacle like at that is present, or at least I feel present at the Las Vegas Star Trek convention. And I can understand that at that big convention, they want this sense of like spectacle of stage show. I can certainly
Yeah,
understand that. Not here, which I liked. Here was, it was, I didn't feel it was spectacle at all. It was, hey, let's really come to celebrate and appreciate everyone that was involved in Battlestar Galactica, and let's talk about it and let's celebrate the fandom of Battlestar Galactica. That's what I felt, not like any sense of spectacle to take away from that. It was really, hey, let's really be here and be grateful and celebrate Battlestar Galactica.
yeah. It really was fantastic. And what I also loved about the smaller setting and the way that they had everything set up with the tables on the outside of the ballroom with the actors and stuff was that and there wasn't much else. There really wasn't anything else going on because the vendor's room didn't really have much. So what I liked about that was that then you could just focus your time either if you were in line getting, autograph or you went downstairs to get a photo op, but you could really focus your time on the panels, right? And sitting there, getting a chance to listen to the actors, talk about behind the scenes stories, what they're doing, their characters, all the normal kind of convention stuff you'd have in one of these panels. So that was really great. I spent more time in line than I kind of hoped to, just because I kind of decided to go all out. And I bought this poster online, which coincidentally was from the guy, one of the two vendors that was there. I
Mm.
didn't know that
Mhm.
was the same guy that was going to be there. Uh, but yeah, I'd bought in this full sized, out of print Battlestar Galactica poster with the Viper on it. It's got Commander Adama, the end of Commander Adama's quote from the miniseries, that I wanted to get the whole cast assigned because my thought was the 20th anniversary. They're almost everybody's here, at least from that are main cast members, and I wanted to get a chance to get that signed by everybody because I thought that'd be really special. Wasn't sure if that I was going to have an opportunity to ever do that again. So I kind of did that, and so I spent some time in line, but I really felt like I got to just kind of sit back and enjoy a lot of panels that happened too.
Yeah. And by the way, that piece that you have is a beautiful poster. I love the poster. It's very, I feel it's artistic. It's got that viper in the center that's going up vertically up. And the Edward James Olmos's autograph, the Commander Adama autograph at the bottom is just incredible. It looks like I can't wait until you've got it like you want and you've got it mounted and framed because it's just a fantastic looking like piece of artwork. And it is artwork, so it's just unbelievable.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
it really is. Thank you. Yeah, I was very, very happy with the way it came out. I was a little nervous. I decided to have a white paint pen that had everybody except for one sign with
Mhm.
it. And I like the contrast of the white with the red and orange background, and then the Viper's got the white. And I mean, I spent some time trying to really put it together and figure out how I wanted to look and shape it. And yeah, I just could not complain at all about it. It just came out so wonderful, and I look forward to the day too when I can frame it and mount it and get it up on the wall because it is
Uh,
it's going to be a wonderful piece, and it'll be awesome. It really will be. It's one of those things where I remember watching Battlestar Galactica right when it was on TV. And remember the stories I told you about watching it with my buddies when I was living in North Dakota, one of which came out and was there with us, my buddy Nate. And I guess I never thought that I would ever have the chance maybe to meet pretty much the entire cast and have a poster signed by all of them together. So that was really wonderful. That was my big purchase, right? To get the poster and get everybody to sign it. I didn't go to Vegas this year. I intentionally put a lot of things on hold in order to, put my resources towards that in order to do it. And I'm so glad I did because it's a wonderful piece. It's too big. I'd take it out and show you guys. It's too big, but you can go on our Facebook page and our Instagram page.
mm,
And one of the pictures I posted from the convention has the poster on there just to show you guys. It's not me bragging or showing off. I just wanted you guys to kind of see like, the cast together like that on a poster. And yeah, it was awesome. A lot of fun.
man. Yeah, that's great, man. That's
Plus, it gave me an excuse,
unbelievable.
but by doing that, it gave me an excuse to meet everybody, right? And
Hmm.
that was really what I wanted. The autographs, that's cool, and the poster is going to look amazing. But I really wanted the chance just to meet them, and so that gave me gave me an excuse to do it. And it would everybody I met couldn't have been nicer. They were all super gracious, and you could tell they were genuinely grateful to be there and be back together with everybody in that, like you said, that dedicated type of convention.
Hmm. Well, some of the phrases that they said during the convention, like over and over again, were that this was a family and that this was a family reunion, and then they were embracing the fans as part of the family too. And you felt that greatly. One of the very, very significant, if not most significant parts of this convention was that Michael Hogan was there, right? And
Yeah,
so you were sharing with me this thing, I did not know this. You were sharing with me that, um, he had been going all he had been having these health issues and had a health incident years back, and that this was his first like public appearance anywhere from that. And this was, and they confirmed that. I remember like Edward James almost talking about that when he got upstage, because because it was literally Michael Hogan like, hey, this is the first time he's been out of a healthcare environment, a hospital environment, someplace that that you know he needed to be for them to take care of his health. So that was, it was significant, it was huge, and he was there, and everyone was so like honored and humbled that he could be there, and he brought this great sense of energy to um the convention, and it was incredible. And then the staff held this, the staff, the cast and the creation staff held this auction, healthcare fundraise auction for Michael.
Yeah.
And it was very touching, very moving, and successful. I felt that they did like a really successful job like doing it. And um what a very, very moving part of the convention, you know.
It was incredible. Yeah, I remember us talking about the Michael situation before the convention started, right? Like we got together, and even before, I think before we left for Chicago, talking about it, right? And yeah, he had a some health issues that started back in 2020. He had to learn how to walk and talk and everything all over again, and it was a significant challenge. His wife's been taking care of him. I mean, this is all online. She's all confirmed all this and everything, and so what I didn't know though, Chris, was when Edward James Olmos said this is the first time he had been out of a hospital or hospice care in 4 years. Like he had not even been home in 4 years. And they decided last minute to make the trek out to Chicago to come to this because of the significance of our 20th anniversary. Everybody's together. I mean, my goodness, God bless Michael Hogan's wife. Um, she's been Susan Hogan, I believe is her name. She's been taking care of him this whole time, and you're right. The energy he brought was unbelievable. Like he was cracking jokes, and
Mhm.
I mean, he had his own panel. He was in a panel with him and Kate Vernon, who played Ellen Ty, his wife,
Mhm.
and it was simply amazing. I remember too when they put up on the website that he was attending, and I think it was only what a couple of weeks before we left, I think. And I remember calling you and being like, dude, I cannot believe Michael Hogan's going to be there. I don't think anybody expected that to happen with everything that had been going on, and you would fully understand why. And for him to be there and having been able to meet him was such an honor. He was so full of joy, and it was radiating energy. I mean, he was just, it really wouldn't have been the same without him there. And then, like you said, the auction, and they announced it at the convention. So I don't think we're wrong by saying this, but the cast donated a bunch of stuff to the auction. Creation donated stuff. So I think Creation really did this right. And they raised like $46,000. The fans really came through and were just bidding like crazy in order to get the donations up to help them with medical expenses. And that to me, when you see stuff like that, you're like, okay, you can see there's still a light that shines in humanity, right? There's still goodness going on. We're going through so much in this world, and even in our own country, in the United States. But to see something like that, it still gives you belief and hope that yes, there is still good in people, and the way that the convention, way of creation, and way the fans and everything, everybody in the cast, everybody came through for Michael. It got Edward teary, it got the whole cast teary, it got Susan teary, it got Mike. I mean, it was just. I'm so glad we were there for that, to be able to witness that and experience that, and it really just makes you feel like I felt like we were part of the Battlestar Galactica family, and it was wonderful.
We totally felt like we were part of the family. You know, one of the things they said about the show, you know, talk a little bit about uh, Michael Taylor and Ron D. Moore and Michael Reimer. When people say, "Oh, the show is so dark," right? And um, Ron D. Moore saying, "No, the show's about hope." And you said it, Zach. You said, "Hey, this convention was about hope," and that is how I felt when we were there. Michael's, you know, Michael Hogan's presence there and how the cast members embraced him and how they cared for him gave you like this sense of like hope of treating everyone with kindness. And Edward James almost spoke to the audience, spoke to us, and he was he said, "So say we all." Right. So he did that like over and over again with the audience, embracing us like as if we were on the Galactica with them,
Yeah.
saying, "So say we all, so say we all." And so the audience would all like say that back to him. And Edward James almost like had that presence about him, like he was like Commander Adama, like on the Galactica, talking to us like we were part of the crew, embracing us as family, um, coalescing us all to help Michael Hogan and the circumstance there, asking us like to come back for next year, um, asking us to always have those ideals that Commander Adama would want for his crew to have. So that's how I felt. Like you said this light of humanity and hope. That's how I felt this convention was, and Edward James almost like being there to kind of to be this central guiding light to coalesce everyone in that. It was so meaningful that he would say, "So say we all" to the
Yeah.
entire audience and bring everyone together.
Did when he started doing that, did that give you like goosebumps a little bit? Like I got goosebumps when he started saying it, and then the audience would say it back, the crowd. It gave me goosebumps in a very good way.
Mm. It was very moving for me, like inside. That's what it made me feel like wow, I got to be here. He's saying that to us. It was very, very moving. Battlestar
Yeah.
Galactica like has so many like different, it means different things to like all of us, right? So it was just terrific that he was there to be able to do that.
Yeah, and if you're watching or listening to us and you have not watched Battlestar Galactica, the reboot, if you want to call it that, from 2004 to 2008, or actually 2003 if you include the miniseries, you got to go watch it. If you have not put that in and watched it yet, please, please, please do. The show is incredible. If you're a Star Trek fan, you will love Battlestar. I mean, it was headed by Ron D. Moore from Star Trek. Go watch it, please. It's very much worth your time and you will love it. The writing is second to none. Um, the characters are phenomenal. They all go through so much, and you get to see such amazing character arcs for all of them. It's really wonderful. And to be honest with you, Chris, being there was very moving through all of it with Michael and with the quotes and the speeches from Edward James Olmos and everybody getting involved with everything. It was phenomenal. But the best part, of course, was the fact that we got to share it together. I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that your schedule opened up so perfectly the way it did to allow you to be there, and my schedule I was able to be there too. It I'm so glad we didn't miss it and we were both able to go.
Me too. It was almost like it was amazing and like fate, right? So and and we can talk about destiny, we can talk about fate, about circular like paths of the universe on like this event was meant to be. Um, but it felt like that. Like wow,
Yeah,
everything opened up so that we could be together and we could share this event together.
yeah,
It was great. And then Michael Hogan was able to be there and Edward James almost was able to be there. And then you got to work on your this beautiful masterpiece of a portrait. And I know Battlestar Galactica, like when you first watched the show, it was a very meaningful part of your life, right? So
yep.
so it meant a lot to you and you were able to make connections with the people that got to watch it with you, and Nate got to come as well, and so that was very, very like meaningful. Like you guys got to share that experience there when Battlestar Galactica was coming out, and then Nate got to come here for the convention.
Yeah, and running into an old work buddy from that I haven't seen since I lived in North
Yeah.
Dakota, like years. I mean, like of all places, of all times, it was it was really awesome. And the way that they made us feel as fans, you felt like you were going to a family reunion, right? Like
Yeah.
because you think about it, Chris, like a show like Battlestar and other shows that people get involved in. I mean, I feel this way a little bit with Outlander with some of the characters in that as well. Obviously, we feel that way with Star Trek and other shows, but I with Battlestar in this case, you feel like you get to know these characters so much, right? And you're going along this journey of all this hardship and all these ups and downs and all these things with them. And then you go to the convention and the actors and the people involved in the show really make you feel like as an audience, you weren't just watching it, but you were there with them, right? In the journey. You were there on the Galactica. And you said it perfectly with Edward James Olmos, the way he just was, the way he was interacting with us in the audience, and the way he just kind of made us all feel like we're a part of his crew. We're a part of the crew on the
Mhm.
Galactica. It was special. It really was. And that's that intimate setting that you just I just don't feel like you really get the full sense like you do at a Star Trek convention, like we did at the Battlestar convention. So I loved it. I didn't meet a single actor or person there who wasn't so grateful we were there. And you meet people and they're, oh, hey, how you doing? Okay, cool. Yep, got it. Thanks. See you later. But everybody there was invested in every person in the line. They wanted to get to know you, talk about you and who you are, what's your name, where you from, what do you do, this and that and the other. And it's very refreshing when you get to experience that, right? With people. I remember talking with Mary McDonnell, obviously
Yep.
Madam President, right?
Yes, Madam
President.
President.
And I remember, so if you remember this, Chris, so we went to dinner at the restaurant in the hotel there on Thursday evening, and we're sitting there, and Mary McDonnell walks in. She's just hanging out. I think she's looking for a party or whatever that she was supposed to meet. And she starts walking towards us, and I look up and I go, "Hey, good evening, Madam President." And it tickled her. You could tell she was so thrilled when I said that. And she came over and she put her hand on my shoulder and she's like, "Isn't this wonderful?" I was like, "Yeah, we're looking forward to chatting with you and seeing you throughout the weekend." She's like, "I am too. This is so great." And she was just so excited to be there. It was so awesome. And, getting to meet Edward James Olmos. I remember I even told him, I said, "I've been watching you for so long. And the first time I saw you on screen was when I was in high school watching the movie Stand and Deliver, and
Yeah.
how great of a movie that was. And obviously, you were amazing as a Dama too. But I've been wanting to meet you for so long, and it's such a pleasure to finally get to meet you." And you could tell he was genuinely thankful for me and everybody else who was there. And I'm
Yeah.
curious, Chris, if you share your experience meeting him, because you were right behind me in line to meet him, and you getting a chance to finally meet the man, the myth, the legend.
He was so warm and gracious with with me. I thanked him and he thanked me back. And he wrote like a just beautiful autograph and this beautiful phrase on the headshot of him. And I remembered when I was there that, oh yeah, that's also he had done like Blade Runner. So I thought that that was great, and I thanked him for doing that role. And he said, "Oh, that was a fun role, like as well." But my experience of Edward James almost was that he was just so gracious and so kind, and took the time to just share that moment with you, and share that moment with me. And I really appreciated that from him. It was
Yeah,
wonderful,
it was.
wonderful.
And like I said, everybody there was fantastic. I mean, when I met Mary in line, and she's like, "Hey, how are you? What's your name? What do you do for a living?" And we were chatting, and she was just so taken aback by what I do for a living. And we chatted for a while and kind of got to explain some things. And she was so genuinely interested. She wasn't like looking around like, "Oh yeah," talking to other people. She was just focused on me. And that was so apparent with all of the actors how they would do that. And yeah, man, I don't have enough good things to say about the convention, about the people that we met. Was there a particular panel or a particular person during the panel that mentioned anything specific that stood out to you?
Hmm. Some of the specific things that stood out to me, there was a terrific all of the panels were terrific, I felt in different
Yeah.
ways. And I really have a hard time thinking about which panel might be my favorite because I've thought about this a lot, and I'm not sure that I have a favorite one. But the Ron D. Moore, Michael Reimer, and Michael Taylor panel,
The first, very first one.
the very first one
Yeah.
where they have the creators of the show talking about um, Battlestar Galactica. There are some very specific things that I remember that stood out to me, that resonated to me. Some of it was like this idea of like, well, they were talking about people saying, well, the show is so dark, and then they would rebuttal that, like Ron D. Moore would rebuttal that no, this show is about like hope, and they wanted to present a show where they would ask questions about humanity. These I mean these are things that Zach, you and I are talking about like all the time when
Yeah.
we're doing our walkthrough, right? And they're talking about that in this panel, and like I this is really like connecting with me because they're saying we wanted to ask these questions about humanity. We didn't want to present these answers. Um, and though that really really stuck with me. And then there was a comment that someone, I'm not sure, I think it was in this panel, but there was a comment where they were talking about Adama's speech over and over again, and they were talking about Adama's speech in the miniseries and
Oh,
how he came
and
up
you
with it.
mentioned a lot about that too when our
Yeah,
discussion of the miniseries.
yeah, and they kept going, yeah, we ended the speech with, is humanity worth saving? And when I heard that, was that stuck with me so much because when I heard that, I was like, yes, that's what you guys are asking, like and through the whole show, right? That's what I was really
Yes.
feeling like, is humanity worth saving? And you're examining that like all throughout each of these story arcs and episodes. So that that was what stuck with me, like in those panels. All of the other panels, like I really enjoyed, like as well. But the Ron D. Moore, Michael Reimer, and Michael Taylor one, where you hear these ideas, I mean, straight from the creators, what are they thinking? And they're still evolving it, but they are really thinking about these very these abstract concepts and abstract questions about humanity and presenting it in this show, and they are making commentary about what was happening in the world at the time, like just like Star Trek does, right?
Yeah.
But like we are connecting like that, like, yeah, that is what is happening, that makes us appreciate the show more, look at it in a different way, and I feel like really look at it in terms of appreciating it from an artistic point of view. So
Yeah.
that, those stuck with me like a lot through the panels. And you, what 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 like connected with you? What did you remember from some of the panels?
There was a lot. I would say the one thing that I think was really wonderful to hear was, and I'm trying to think of the specific panel. I want to say it was a panel that Jamie Bamber was on, who played Apollo, and he mentioned that, as the show went on, and I too really enjoyed that first panel with Ron Moore and Michael Reimer and Michael Taylor. If you guys have been watching or listening to us long enough, you know that we have really come over the years to really enjoy the behind the scenes stuff, the making of it. How does it come together? The writing process, the directing process, all that stuff that is put together to give you that magic on screen. And I find myself very drawn to a lot of that because it's that process, right? The process of getting from an idea, getting it onto paper, and then getting it to that finish line and that product that we get to consume and enjoy as fans. And so I remember specifically Jamie Bamber mentioning, because somebody asked about, I guess, inputs that they may or may not have gotten as actors into their characters, and if they had any um, inputs into the way in which the characters were developed or story arcs, things like that. And he talked about how it really became a collaborative process. From what we've been told from some of our guests before, Chris, and I know this is it can be this way on Star Trek amongst many other shows is somebody gets cast into a role, right? They get the part, they show up, they're just told, "Hey, you go on, say your lines, do your thing, and then you're done." Right? That there isn't any of this collaboration piece. Uh, uh, Maybe in some stuff, but not everything. And so it's like the writers write, the directors direct, the actors act, right? And there's these kind of barriers. Star Trek was that way on certain shows, but they talked about how it was a collaboration, right? And how they absolutely got inputs. In fact, I think God, I'm gonna butcher his name, and I apologize. The guy who played Hilo. Why am
Oh, oh
I'm gonna
yeah,
butcher
yeah.
his name.
Tomo,
Tomo, yeah, he
Tomo
mentioned,
Pennicott. Yeah.
yeah, he mentioned it. Jamie Bamber mentioned it. Candace McClure mentioned it. Several people mentioned this collaboration piece, right? That they had a voice when it came to their characters, and they had a voice when it came to the process. And you know, I'm sure they weren't the ones that were leading everything, right? The writers and Ron and everything else were still doing that, but the fact that it was that they felt like it was a collaboration amongst the whole team of
Mhm.
really making this thing come to fruition on the screen and being a part of that to me had to be so incredibly satisfying as an actor or as a writer, as a producer, as a director, whatever, to really have this team that's sharing in this vision and they care. You could tell the actors cared and still do care so deeply about what they made, right? The product, the end result that is Battlestar Galactica. You could really tell that everybody cared so deeply about this show, about their characters, about the writing, about the stories, everything. To me, that stood out the most, where you could tell that everybody was so bought in so quickly. In fact, I think a couple of them, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, several of the actors, not a couple, several of the actors during some of their panels mentioned the feeling they had once the mini series was over, that they kind of felt like, well, this thing's gonna happen, right? Like the mini
Mhm.
series was kind of like the pilot, right? In this particular instance, where it was made, and then they had, you know, if it was successful or where they liked it enough, then that was going to get picked up. And I think it seemed like the common feeling amongst the people involved in this show was is that they felt like it was going to get picked up because it was just so good. How could it not?
I believe Edward James almost said that he felt when he read it that it was the best thing he had ever read for television at the time
In his career, right? Yeah.
in his career. Yeah, and he said that. He straight up said that. Um, the collaboration idea and the collaboration that happened, I think, is a great point. And um, one of the things that Ron Moore did that was talked about was he apparently wrote like this manifesto, this Battlestar Galactica manifesto or Battlestar Galactica Bible
Yeah.
on the script for the miniseries. If I recall, I think he wrote the
Yes.
miniseries
You are
script, and
correct, Chris. Yeah. Yep.
so he wrote this manifesto to go along with it, and that was sent out.
And it was
So
really big too, wasn't it? A
yeah,
really big script.
yeah, I think so. And so he had this vision, right? So Ron Moore had this vision and was sharing it. But what is really incredible to note, and I think very admirable, is that he was also open to collaboration and input from the actors like along the way. Because I mean, I'm sure there's so much like mind space and responsibility that they have to have as you know, being the creators of the show or the showrunners or the ones setting the vision. So there's like only so much mind space you can have for that. Then but they're still yet open like to collaboration. Kate Vernon shared like a wonderful story of her experience with Battlestar Galactica, that like she, after her character had met like her demise, like she was like, oh, I'm gonna call Ron and like give him an idea. I've got this idea. I'm gonna call him and like share it and just see what he thinks about it. And he took it in and he thought about it and he came back and he integrated more of her into the show into a huge part, right? But that's part of the collaboration, like that that you were talking about. And that's just so, I think that's great. I think that shows a lot of maturity and humility to take that in, and to and appreciation from the other people that were contributing to the show, to take that in and to integrate it. Um, for sure. Because if the show is about so many different aspects of humanity, um, it feels like absolutely right that you're getting some collaboration and an input, from the other actors. And there were elements where obviously Ron had a certain vision, and that vision was going to go into a direction that he felt, and it needed to end at a certain point in a certain way. So there were elements like that still like stayed in the show no matter what. But how admirable, I feel it's just so admirable that he was able to take that input in and weave it in, to the show. It's incredible.
Yeah, he was very, if this is the right term, egoless, right?
Hmm.
He didn't have an ego that got in the way of allowing for collaboration. And I think that collaboration really showed on screen, right? Because of the fact that everybody, when you have a production, and I obviously I've never worked in Hollywood, but if you have a production, right, and you have all these different aspects, you have people doing camera and sound and lights and artwork and set dressings and costumes and acting and directing, all these things, right? Every element of this, and you are making them feel valued. You are making them feel that they are an important part of the team. And then you could do this with any kind of team or any kind of group of people that you work with or a part of, right? And you may experience this the same way in your line of work too, but when everybody's bought in and everybody has a sense of belonging and a sense of value, and that they believe and feel that their inputs are heard, their voices heard, it just makes it for a better product, I think.
Hmm.
And I think that that shows it wasn't just Ron Moore and the writers behind the scenes. Okay, we're writing a script. Here you go say your lines, do it. I don't think it would have been as good of a product.
Hmm.
But because everybody was bought in, and this massive collaboration effort, it was one team, and it allowed for, I think, even better storytelling in this. And
Hmm.
as we've talked about before here in the podcast and on our phone calls when we talk to each other, even through text message, um, the the stories in this show are so fantastic, and the storylines and the writing is just so good. Um, I'm just so thankful and grateful that we got to be there and witness all this and experience it and meet the people, because it makes you feel like, again, like we said, you're part of the crew, you're part of the family, and the appreciation goes through the roof for this show.
Yeah, it does. It does. I remember, so they even had a one of the panels was on the philosophical themes of Battlestar Galactica, and you had mentioned that to me, right? Like, oh, hey, Chris, I think you're gonna like this panel, right? You like sticking in and watch it. I'm like, yeah, I think that's cool. I'm gonna watch it. Um, and so one of the things I had taken down to get like autographed, that Ron D. Moore, Michael Reimer, and Michael Taylor autographed for me, was this book. So I took it down. I had been reading it.
Yep.
Was the was philosophy. It was about philosophy in Battlestar Galactica. And so I was like, oh yeah, I'd like them to sign this. I think that'd be cool. So I'm walking around, when it's time to sign, and then in line, a gentleman stops me and goes, "Hey, that's my book." And I'm like, "What?" So and it was Jason Iverell, that was giving the panel discussion, right? And then that is the editor of the book. And I'm like, "Oh, well, that's cool." Like that out of nowhere, like that was like a cool like coincidence, because I did not expect that at all. So
Yeah.
we made that connection with Jason, and he's a professor at the university. So this was wonderful to make that connection. He was able to sign that book, and plus get Ron and Michael to sign it too. So it was so cool, because I like that kind of stuff. So neat that was able to happen, like during the panel as well. So those were kind of, yeah, we talk about Battlestar Galactica, and it is the type of show that lends itself to all of these different themes. um, and themes on philosophy of on and AI and just being human. So it's really really cool.
Yeah, that's true. It was really neat. I certainly for me one of many highlights was getting my picture taken with Edward James Olmos and Katie Sackhoff together.
Yeah.
That was really cool. I mean, we've talked very much about Starbuck and
Hmm.
her relationship with Apollo and her relationship specifically with Adama, with William
Hmm.
Adama. And so to get those two together, that picture with the two of them together is wonderful. I've got it up on my wall over here, and it's really special. I don't really do a whole lot of photo ops anymore. I did quite a few back in the day when I was going to the Trek conventions in Vegas. I don't really do a lot of them anymore, but I felt like this one was kind of special, and I wanted to get a photo with both of them. So that was really neat. Really enjoyed that, and that was really cool. I'm hoping Chris will be able to have the author on with us at some point to
Yes.
discuss some of that. That would be pretty cool. We gave him our podcast card. I think he gave you his card.
Yes.
And so we'll have to see if we can make that work. I did want to mention, if I haven't already, that we do have two Battlestar Galactica cast members that are going to be on our podcast in the very near future.
Yes.
Um, Rounding out season 6 of the Random Redshirt podcast is going to be the one, the only Aaron Douglas, aka Chief Tyrrell from Battlestar Galactica. Unfortunately, he was not able to be at the convention in Chicago. So we are really looking forward to having him on. The Chief is one of my absolute favorite characters in the show, and I'm really excited to talk with him. In fact, as long as the schedule stays the way it is, we'll be recording with him in about a week or so. Well, actually,
It's
less than a
awesome,
week.
man.
So
Yeah.
we're looking forward to that. We can't wait to bring that to you. And then also is able to confirm that Candace McClure is going to be on with us, aka Lieutenant Duala, or D, as she's known by in the show. And that's going to be a blast too. Cannot wait to have both of them on with us to talk to them about their careers, their passions, their hobbies, Battlestar Galactica, and so, so much more. It's going to be an absolute thrill.
Absolutely was. It absolutely will be. Really looking forward to that. That'll be interesting. We talked about the character of D a lot. We talked about the character of the chief like a
Yeah.
lot. They're I mean, they've got some major parts in Battlestar Galactica for sure. You know, D talked about her story arc at the convention.
Mhm.
D said Candace talked about
Yeah.
her story
That's her
arc.
character. That's all right.
Yeah, yeah, at the convention a lot. So that was really really interesting.
Yeah. And the story of how she found out her character was going to die was also,
Oh yes.
I don't know if you want to tell that story that she mentioned, or maybe we'll save it and wait. She can tell it
Yeah,
to us on the podcast. But the way in which she found out was quite interesting, and we'll have to let her tell that story, I guess, because it
yeah.
was it was both sad and hilarious at the same time.
She was not the first to know. We should say
No,
that. Yeah.
You are correct, my friend. She was not. And so it'll be wonderful. I'm looking forward to talking with her. We're looking forward to talking with Aaron. Aaron is on a brand new show that's out now on Fox. I think they're 5 or 6 episodes in. I can't remember specifically, called Murder in a Small Town. My wife and I have been watching. It's a fantastic show. Please be sure to go watch that because we're going to be talking about that too with him. I cannot wait as
Excellent.
well to be talking about Murder in a Small Town, along with many other things, even hockey. He's a big hockey fan. So look forward to chatting a little bit about hockey with him too. And of course, Battlestar Galactica. So we look forward to bringing
Absolutely.
that to you as part of our season 6 finale here on the podcast. It's going to be great. But yeah, any final
Yeah.
thoughts, Chris, about the convention as a whole? Anything that you hadn't mentioned or wanted to discuss further?
They did have like the traditional things you'd see at conventions, like they did have cosplay, so
Yeah.
it was neat to see people come in the cosplay uniforms and the creativity that they would have with that. Um, but my final thoughts were it did really feel like a family convention. I ran into Gary as part of Creation, right? I think that's one of the gentlemen that's part of Creation. Ran into one of the Creation people like at the convention center, and I said, thank you, this is great. And he goes, yeah, it was so amazing. This was like the morning after the all cast get together, And so that was such a highlight to see um, all of the cast that was there together, like on stage and sharing that moment. So my sense, my concluding sense was just that it was such a family reunion and that it was such a moving experience, like hearing Edward James Olmos, Admiral Dama, saying to us, "So say we all," and bringing up the hope and the optimism. Really, yeah, that optimism and that energy, and bringing everyone together, and coalescing everyone's like energy together, like in that room, and really uplifting everyone that was able to attend. Um, that that is what I really felt, this feeling of optimism and uplifting that they were able to share with us.
Yeah, I agree. I think the icing on the cake of the whole thing, and it was a lot of icing in a good,
Hmm.
very good way, was Michael Hogan being there.
Hmm.
That to me changed the entire feeling and vibe of the convention in such an amazing way, right? That everybody was so um happy and ecstatic that he was there. They were moved emotionally that he was there. And I mean, it wouldn't have been the convention without Colonel Ty, right? You
Yeah.
love to hate the character, and he was so damn good as Colonel Ty. I mean, he was just so good.
Hmm.
And we've talked about several people, including Natalia, which
Hmm.
I'll mention that in
Hmm.
a second. That we just couldn't imagine anybody else playing that character, right? And he certainly, I couldn't imagine anybody else playing Colonel Ty than him. It was just so good. Um, Another highlight for me, it wasn't convention related, but being able to get together and have breakfast with our dear friend Natalia Nogalich, who's been on with us. Of course, she plays the feisty Admiral Alana Nechayev
Hmm.
on Star Trek. She's been a dear friend for so long, and it was so wonderful to see her. I haven't seen her, I think, in 7 years in person because of COVID, and then different years of going to conventions. And she was going to go last year, and things didn't work out. And so it was just so good to see her and talk with her again in person. That to me was like the little cherry on top
Yeah,
of this convention. Um, it was just wonderful.
that's
It really,
wonderful.
really was. So I'm glad that you and Nate both got to meet her in
Hmm.
person.
Thank you.
Um,
Yeah.
and for me, okay, let me really quickly.
Hmm.
I'll share this. So the cherry on top was us getting the chance to meet up with Natalia while we are there because she lives out there. For me, the 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 ice cream and the ice cream sundae was obviously the convention and the meeting everybody and the panels and things like that. The frosting on top, if you will, was you being there, my friend. So, like I said,
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
am so happy and thankful that not only that you could make it out, but that you chose to come out. You could have said,
Yeah.
I travel so much, I'm going to sit this one out, but you didn't. You trekked all the way out there. That was a long trip for you, my friend, and I am so incredibly grateful that you did because, like I said, it would not have been the same without you.
It was a wonderful experience, my friend. It was the Random Redshirt podcast in person at the Battlestar Galactica convention.
I mean, it doesn't get
Incredible.
much better than
That's
that,
right.
right? So
Yeah.
it was great. We hope that for those of you watching or listening, if you have not watched Battlestar, again, go watch it, please. But we hope that if you have the time and you're free, go check out Creation's website. This is not a paid advertisement. We have nothing to do with them. But if you get a chance to go next year in September in New Jersey to the convention, most of the cast, I think, has already said they're going to be there or are going to try to
Hmm.
be there as much as they can. Katie Sackhoff even said she had never actually watched the show. I don't think all the, beginning to end. Maybe she's watched little bits here and there, but she's never watched the show in its entirety. And she said, I promise I'm going to watch it the whole way through before next year in New Jersey. And she's going to hopefully have more time than just being there for one day to celebrate with the cast and the fans. So um, I don't know that I'll be able to make it out next year. I've got other plans. I want to do Vegas again next year, depending on who comes
Hmm.
out. And I want to go to the original series set tour out in Ticonderoga, New York, when Shatner is there in July. and tour the set. We'll talk more about that.
I didn't even
But
know that was a thing. That's
we'll
cool.
we'll talk more about that. It's going to be wonderful. So I'm hoping those things will happen. We'll see. But if you didn't make it to this one, and even though this is an anniversary one, try to go next year if you can. If you're a Battlestar fan, go next year. You won't regret it. The people are wonderful. You will absolutely love everybody you meet, and you'll probably have just as good of a time as we do. Maybe better. Who knows? But I know this was one of my absolute favorite conventions that I've done, and
Oh,
yeah, it was wonderful.
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's
So,
awesome.
anyways, thank you everybody so much for watching and listening all over the globes in the interwebs. We now my camera's gone blurry. It's like shut up and get off the screen. We very much appreciate it. Be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram, where you can find us, and also YouTube if you're listening to us. And if you're on YouTube, go check out your favorite podcast platform for all the episodes. We are very excited to bring you more episodes coming up. We're going to be definitely doing more deep dives of Battlestar Galactica. We've already done, I think, two, right? Yeah, we've
Yeah.
done two. One from season one, one from season two. I think we're talking about which one we're going to do. We'll do one from season three and then from season four and everything else. We did the mini series recap and review. So be sure to go check that out again on the channel below or on your favorite podcast platform. And other deep dives of Star Trek and other stuff coming up. And of course, some great guests that we've just mentioned will also be with us. So be sure to stay tuned for that because you're not going to want to miss it.
That's right. It's going to be awesome, everyone.
It really will be. So, again, thank you always so much. We very much appreciate it. And we'll catch you next time right here on the Random Redshirt podcast.